You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Lisa back.
You're listening to Making Tracks and a very special episode as we head east to Cologne in Germany and the 2026 running of the highly regarded Power of the Force convention, where fans from across Europe and beyond congregated to enjoy an amazing weekend and meet some of the biggest stars in the galaxy. That included ILM map painting legend Mike Pangrazio, who was there all weekend and who gave a fascinating talk that you can listen to right here on Making Tracks.
I mean, it's a group effort to make a film. There's so many other people who film, and they all have their disciplines. But if I'm doing what I did most of my career, which is art direction, I end up being able to contribute to the overall vision of something. And it is a very broad creative role. You know, in some cases, you're actually creating from a script, and you're imagining what it could be like, and then you pull it up art. And you're getting approvals, and it's moving, you know, with all kinds of opinions. But it can be very creative in that way. The other side of it is you're doing visual effects, and things are well established, like you're working on a sequel. Well, a sequel, it has to flow through with the design or ethics like that. Yeah.
For Star Wars, when you started, you started with the technique of map painting. You did it yesterday roughly, but can you explain us again what is map painting and which way does it work and what is so special about it?
Okay. Well, map painting is something that it was actually invented by the French. Yes. They put up a piece of glass over in camera, and they were able to paint on the glass, and the depth of focus was such that the foreground pane of glass was in focus, and infinity or background was in focus too. So they, with a locked off shot, meaning the camera static, you could actually, through the lens only, see a completely different scene. Let's say you're shooting out on the desert, and you want to have a castle up on the hill on some hills. Of course, it's not there. So you paint it on the glass, and the lens will look through the glass to the live action, and then above it would be the castle that you painted. So it has to match, it has to be very realistic. And that's kind of a simple explanation of that thing.
But it had a huge impact to be able to create landscapes that are not existing yet.
Oh, yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about the parts were used, how to create something absolutely new on things that were there, like we know about Daskers, but we haven't seen that palace is standing there, things like that. So what was the process to getting there? Who accompanied you and your thoughts throughout the making?
Well, it depends on, different circumstances. I would say that there's a structural efficiency to filmmaking where you have a production designer and you might have a concept artist. And Ralph Luqueri was the original concept artist for how everything looked. And I would look at his work and a storyboard. Maybe Joe Johnson used to do storyboards. And I would look into that information, look up a script, and I would be disciplined within what was established to try to make it look as real as possible. And along the way, you can, again, suggest things. See? But overall, there's a efficiency to the structure. So I'm not going off doing my own thing too much. And you get results as quickly as possible. We would use all kinds of different. In the old days, this is not what it's like today. In the old days, we used to use a lot of models, so they were physical models that were made, and then mackings, and we had optical printers. It was a very different process than it is today with AI. So this is all craftsmanship, and that's when I was working on Star Plus. That's what it was like.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
But still today, if you watch the movies, the impression is huge and it feels real. So you mentioned AI. Could you judge a bit about advantages, disadvantages if you compare it? Because seeing it still today, I got the impression, and I know AI when I watched those movies.
Yeah. Well, I think AI is going to replace most of what before, and unfortunately, in some ways, it is synthetic, so it maybe doesn't have the heart and soul, that it would have if we did it the old-fashioned methods. But it's inevitable because it's efficient. It's a lot cheaper than having a lot of crews and departments in a big company. I mean, some of the companies I work for, they have 1,500 people, all in one company. That's a lot of people working on film. And that probably is now with AI being reduced down to, I don't know, a certain percentage of that, maybe 10% of that. So it's inevitable, it's going to happen. But again, I think there is a backlash, perhaps. There's people that really will continue to hold on to do things as human beings rather than let a machine do everything for us and just prompt it. I mean, there are happy accidents that happen with that because the machine can give you a lot of iterations, a lot of choices at once. Like here's 6 different versions of what you're describing for it to illustrate or to render. So that helps in some ways because you'd have to have a lot of different people doing human beings doing their versions. But I think the future is going to be in AI. I kind of regret that. I like the old-fashioned ways of doing things. You can't look back progress like that.
Not to mention what it does to the humanity if they stop being creative by themselves, right?
Well, there's 2 things about that. I think that we're going to be creative, maybe more so small pockets of creativity, but I think it is going to make us lazy. I predict that it's like the spell check. You don't have to learn how to spell anymore. You could be corrected, so there's no real incentive to study really hard and know how to spell. It's going to be the same way visually. It's going to get easier and easier to delegate our creativity and our tasks to a machine. So what we're going to end up doing as humanity, I don't know. There's not a lot of discussion about it, which bothers me. There should be more political and social, especially up where we're going, plus.
As a teacher, I have my own problems with AI, so just use.
Okay.
Has anybody got any questions you would like to ask?
Thank you very much for this question today. And I was wondering, you made so many iconic images and deities. Which one is your favorite? From Star Wars, but also beyond that. Which one would you say this is perfect or the best I could get?
Oh, that's a hard one because, there are a couple that come to mind. I worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I did the warehouse at the end of Raiders, but I also did this Raven Tavern or a bar that was in the Himalayas, and it's a single shot, and it's completely hanging, except for the smoke was kind of animated, which it looked pretty, to be frank with you, and I didn't like that. It must be. But anyway, it ended up in the film. But I think that one is just beautiful, as it was on the screen 100% hanging, and it kind of worked, and nobody complained about it, and I think many people were fooled that it was a real scene. But that's what, you were asking me about what that painting is. That's an example of saving money. You don't have to send a crew up there. You don't have to dress a set up in the snow and make tavern or build on that tavern. You can just make a whole thing. So if it works, it works. So it saves a lot of money.
for everything in one location. Daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
You're an artist, so with the paintings that you do, there's a technicality to what's required to go on the screen, but also there's an artistic element to it. Where's the line between the two?
I'm an opportunist, and so whatever by accident happens and that I get presented with, if I like it, sometimes it doesn't have to come from my mind. There are something called happy accidents, and it could be that there's a mistake made, and there's something to that mistake that is remarkable enough to keep a piece of. And so I'm pretty ruthless visually. I don't care where it comes from. Now, plagiarizing is a little bit too far. You don't want to do copyright infringement, but you do want to be inspired because there's a lot of other people that have solved problems visually out there, and you can certainly use those again, and then reconfigure them and change them and give it your own spin. So I tend to be somebody, I rely on a lot of other people's work to inspire me, and I think everybody does creatively. Directors do that too. They watch a lot of films, they have a favorite director, and they end up learning from that director what to do in their own film. Gives them new ideas. But the technical and the visual, I don't know. I don't look at it as separate things. I look at it as just opportunities to solve a problem visually.
So you participate in a lot of projects covering a lot of genres, from Doctor Who, so sci-fi, fantasy, and of all these projects, since we figured out what your favorite painting is, I would like to know what was the part you were most busy with. So what was maybe the challenge for you and why?
Well, I've worked on probably 72 films, and I worked on King Kong, Peter Jackson, in New Zealand, and I was art director for Snow Island. So films generally end up always being the same pattern. At the end of it, it's a big crisis. So in the last 3 weeks, it's not done, especially visual effects. So you end up staying up all night. That's the stressful part, because your judgment gets cloudy. After a couple of weeks of not sleeping, it's like you're not making efficient decisions anymore. Yeah, but you have to keep doing it. So that's the stressful part. But that project in particular was, I think, more than 3 weeks. It was like a month at the end, because it was so ambitious visually that that was very stressful. But
well, I know the movie. I don't know if you all know that. Being a fan of Peter Jackson's work, but could you describe a bit more what you did and what was the so what was challenging? Because it's very there are a lot of dark scenes that have that of highlights in there, and a lot of scenery that is changing. So that is what I get from viewing it. So what was your challenge?
Well, it was to of course, when you're working for somebody as a director, you're going to fulfill their vision. So you have to interpret their words first, usually, and give them what they want, or suggest things, alternative things that are close enough to what they want. And he had a vision of having this, well, it's a remake. I think it's a childhood love that he had of the original King Kong. So he ended up wanting to remake it, but do it himself. And it kind of makes sense, if you have the wealth and the power, and he's very powerful, in the industry, to be able to choose your own project. So it's very important to him. I would say that he's very demanding, but the visuals, I think that film, I don't think it's underrated, but that film, if you look at it visually, is pretty incredible. And it's really his design work. It's his judgments. He's ultimately responsible. So you're just serving that interest. Try to come up with the things that'll excite him. It's stressful to have reviewers, because you come up with your own designs and then you present them, and you're just closing your eyes, hoping that he'll like it, right? You're just, and it's very devastating if he doesn't, or any director doesn't like it, you know, and you have to be successful. So that's the stress of the industry. But that was a great project. I would encourage people to look at that if they haven't seen that film. King Kong was 2006, that era. It's really a great film. I know you love Star Wars, obviously.
Why I said that is because a lot of the scenery or what Peter Jackson did nowadays reminds me a lot of the of Star Wars, working with a lot of darkness and light effects that bring that or put a cut into the movie. So what you did back then, you still have ideas or input from those days that have you today. So if you reflect on what was in the past when you do projects today.
Well, when you talk about dark and light, are you meaning good and evil like this?
No. In the vision. So you have the dark universe, but you have to highlight in the darkness certain scenes.
Yeah.
Or you work with the light, like on Tatooine, and you have to land are built in a dark or palace, for example. So this playing with our rather darkness highlights.
I think what you're alluding to is lighting, perhaps, and emphasis. That's fundamentally important, and that's something that I learned directs your eye. Like, you're attracted to light with your eyes. So if you design something and you have the whole frame, the whole picture is dark, but you have one spot that's lit up, well, everybody's going to see that first. And then you could psychologically have a secondary, third absorption of the information, of the image. So you can direct somebody's emotions, and this is a very interesting topic. Didn't think I'd get into this, but your job as an art director, at least, is to evoke emotions in the audience and help forward the story, help move it forward with the emotions. You know, the anger, the fear, the drama, the tension of not knowing what's going to happen next. All those things can be visually implied. And that should, if you're doing your job right, trigger that emotion in the audience generally. So that was something that I had to kind of learn, and that's a whole lifelong study, because people are complex. But, I did study that. I studied color to make sure that, colors have certain effects on the grade too. Like yellow, chrome yellow makes you feel good. It just visually, literally, it evokes serotonin release in your body when you see yellow. And you remember the happy face in the 1970s and 80s? Well, you felt happy because it was that bright yellow. It wasn't just a smile, it was also a color that made you, and you didn't know that probably. I didn't know that until I learned that. So there's all kinds of different things going on in filmmaking that are techniques.
Hi, this is Adrian Rawlins, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Well, we're looking forward to that, and maybe be able to talk again one day about the art behind Star Wars and other movies and the development we will see. Thank you very much for being our guest, for being here on the panels, and for you seeing at his booth, talk about art, about painting, about anything Star Wars and art direct.
Yes.
So,
and I apologize if I went too far with other things other than Star Wars. Come on. Because I'm a fan too. When I first saw the first Star Wars, I was a total fan. So I still love the genre.
And who knows that you love it that much that you come to conventions like this.
Oh, yeah.
So we're very honored. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of today with the huge Star Wars family around here in Cologne. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Pangrazio.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.